So, if you live in New York, you have undoubtedly heard many, many, many people say, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm moving to Florida. I'm not paying the state taxes anymore. But they get there and they don't realize what comes in terms of insurance costs. They don't realize how their lifestyle changes. We're going to talk about that, where you should be hanging out, where you should be eating all of that good stuff when you're going to Florida, Boca Raton. And we're going to find out what New Yorkers are doing while they're there that's pissing off Floridians. I'm Eric Berman with Compass here in Queens and Long Island, New York, and I'm joined with Tiana. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Tiana Ponti Morales. I'm with Lamacchia Realty in the Boca Del Rey market.
All right, so we've known each other for a long time and we've done business together. And obviously, I have tons of people that are leaving New York and they are moving out to Florida. What areas specifically do you cover?
So I pretty much cover from West Palm Beach down to Fort Lauderdale. I don't go down to Miami or anything like that, but West Palm to Fort Lauderdale.
All right, cool. So, what are you noticing in terms of the migration pattern?
You know what's interesting is it used to be a ton of people from New York, and it still is a ton of people from New York, but I am starting to notice a lot more people from Massachusetts and Connecticut also coming in, more so than New York lately. And I don't know if that's anything specific driving that, other than like taxes, and it might be politics as well. But New York is definitely always number one, but we're starting to see more of some of the other states as well.
So, when people make that move out to Florida, what would you say is like one of the biggest shocks that they experience? Because I know everybody thinks, and it's always been this way, that the grass is always greener, right? But what are the things that you find that clients who make the move are really kind of taken back by?
I would say the biggest things are, if we're talking about real estate specifically, are the way taxes work on properties here. The way houses are constructed is very different here than it is, obviously up north. And then from a cultural standpoint, it is so much slower in Florida, which is so hard for people from the Northeast. Still, even myself, I have to deal with it, being from the Boston area. People are just slow here. They're on vacation. They don't have the hustle that people in New York, you're moving 10 miles, like 100 miles an hour versus 10 miles an hour on vacation. So that I would say is also a big one. So Floridians don't normally honk. People from the Northeast will honk. So that's how we can tell who's from here and who's not.
Yeah, honking the horn is definitely a thing, and depending on where you are, stopping at a stop sign isn't a thing either. I mean,
Yeah, right.
especially in Queens. Oh my God,
You
there's
just
such a
roll.
difference.
There's no car coming, you roll.
Yeah, but you had said the way that the taxes were differing from New York. Could you explain that a bit?
Yeah, so in Florida, the way property taxes work is the houses get reassessed after a purchase. So I will usually tell people it's about 1.8 to 2% of the purchase price is what the taxes are. So, if you're buying $1 million home, plan up to about $20,000 in taxes a year. If you're claiming homestead, it'll be a little bit less. So, that is usually a shock to people because they'll ask, like, what are the property taxes? And if someone's paying $5,000, it could be $5,000 because they've lived there for so long and have had the homestead exemption, which limits how much their property taxes can be increased every year. But yeah, that's usually a shock to people.
Interesting, interesting. Going to the flip side, what are people usually delighted by in terms of surprise when they get to Florida, other than, the fantastic weather in January versus, the 10 degrees that lasted 2 weeks over here during this past brutal winter.
A lot of people are surprised by it's like you subconsciously know this is a fact, but the sun does play such a difference in your everyday life when we have cloud, like we get sunshine obviously almost every day. We're the sunshine state, but when we have like cloudy days and you're missing that lack of sunshine, we can all feel like we're a little bit grumpier because that vitamin D is definitely getting into our veins almost every single day. But same thing up north, right? Like in the winter when it's gray and dreary, you guys are like all miserable. we're not here because we have the sun almost every day. So people are delighted by the constant sun. And then I would say the quality of life is just a little bit better because people learn eventually, once you live here, to slow down a little bit.
See, I couldn't imagine it. And like, because
I
I'm one of
know.
those people, like, I can't, I go into a grocery store and I get anxiety because even here, everybody moves too slow for me. Like,
Right. You're like,
I'm
walk
like,
faster.
no, I'm like psychotic. Like when I'm walking, I will see somebody 2 blocks away and say, I'm gonna beat that person to the next light. The person who has no idea that I'm like tracking them. So like I would have
Hmm.
a hard time with Florida. But I have a theory though that New York has for such a long time been such an industrious place because we have this weather. Because, come wintertime, nobody wants to go out and do anything. Everybody's inside. So we're like so much more productive. And I feel like if you were I know me. I love the beach. I don't know how productive I could be if I had access to that all year around. It's like you have it for this small 3 month window and you kind of lose your mind during that period. But I would imagine it would be magical to be able to get used to that. Um, let me think.
You
So,
do. The other thing, I'll just cut you off for a second. The other thing that people get surprised by moving here is our traffic patterns are very different because there's so many people moving, not only from other states, but other countries. It's such a melting pot of completely different dynamic kind of driver. Bobbing and weaving on the highway is a thing. Like that is just how you have to drive around here. Like you have to bob and weave. Otherwise, you're going to be going 55 in the left lane on 95. And it sounds like crazy, but you have to bob and weave.
so is that actually the thing, or do you just drive crazy?
No, that's actually the thing. That is actually
No,
the thing. Like
I
people are like,
believe it.
why are people moving so much on the highway? It's crazy. Florida's crazy. And it's like, well, that's how you have to drive around here because we have people from so many different countries that all have their ways of driving and either they don't adapt here or they're older and they drive slower, but they never get over to the right lane. People will drive on 95 with their hazards on the whole time. I've seen people
Really?
reverse at an exit. Like people just do the
Oh.
wildest things. Like
Oh my
it's
God.
legit crazy here. So
Oh
that
my
that
God.
for sure is true. Driving here is insane.
So how's the food scene in your area? Because I know, lifestyle is such a big thing. Obviously, you've got all the beaches and that, but how's like the restaurant business? How any like notable chefs showing up in Florida now that there's so much migration over there?
I don't know chefs. I just know food. So I would say when I first moved to Florida in 2016, it was like dismal. There was mostly chain restaurants. Now there's been so much development, not only in the Boca Raton, Delray area, but also Fort Lauderdale and Miami even. Or Miami's always been really a food scene, but we've had a lot of restaurants from New Jersey, New York, come down here. So I don't know if you know Gabriella's. Gabriella's opened up in Delray. I believe they're from the New Jersey area. And a few other spots have opened around here as well. Not chain, which is really nice, but high-end, nice restaurants that have really good food.
So it's funny because I think you and I have had this conversation before about expectations for New Yorkers. So I'm going to say this as the New Yorker. Don't be that guy or that gal who goes over there and complains about the pizza and the bagels. You just don't like, that's not what, that's not
Yeah,
what they're known for.
right.
Obviously, it's different in New York, and you have to just accept that. I'm sure there's solid pizza everywhere, but like, you don't go to Italy and complain that the Greek food's no good. It
Exactly.
doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
The
But
water is different in Florida. Our bagels will be different.
But what other things did New Yorkers do that piss the Floridians off?
I would say really it does come down to like in New York, we did blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you're not in New York. So this is the way Florida does things. If you like the way New York does things, stay in New York. I don't know, just come here to visit. But it's like that is definitely the biggest. The other one is the honking. Like you can always tell a New Yorker because the second the light turns green, someone's honking, you're like, okay, they're from New York. Like, relax. It's not that serious. It's just not that serious here. So why are you honking like that? It's crazy. Unless like they have to use the bathroom, but
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Like the if you have a car that just disengages when you're at a red light and like your foot is already on the gas, but it just needs that second to jump and somebody's already honking at you.
oh my
It's
God, it's insane. Yeah, it's
it's
crazy.
obnoxious. But I think that's, a lot of New Yorkers. We
Oh,
know we
the
ooh.
other thing, the loud talking. Like you can always hear the New Yorkers in the restaurants because they're the loudest ones. Not saying that like Floridians aren't loud or don't have a good time, but there's just the voice carries in New York. And I don't know if that's because your restaurants and places are always so crowded, so you guys have to talk at an elevated level. I don't know, but
So I think it comes down to Americans are very loud. And you go to other countries and everybody's like, oh, the Americans, because we're the loudest people there. And because it's like sort of that pride and boisterousness. I feel like New York is another micro example of that, where it's just we're so proud and loud and obnoxious and we're used to yelling at each other. And I don't know, maybe because it's loud outside, we've grown to have these loud, obnoxious voices, but I mean, I'm I'm pretty loud and obnoxious myself, you know.
yeah, it is what it is.
When I'm with a
It's a
group of
culture.
friends. But
Yeah.
yeah, but like I think it's just what it is. But you can always spot the Americans or the New Yorkers. Um, Let me see. So if somebody was moving there, though, what could they expect to be able to buy? Let's say they're looking in like the $500,000 price range.
I would say in my area, it's really a starter home at that price. So either like a nice townhome, or a fixer-upper type of home. Maybe no, probably no pool, depending on like the exact city and location, whether you're east of 95, closer to the water, or west of 95, further inland. 500,000 no longer goes that far, unfortunately. So yeah, I would, if that was someone's budget, I would say like, let's do a really nice townhouse and a new development or something like that. But a home, yeah, not much these days.
It's good to know. What about $1 million?
Oof, even $1 million, you're either going to get something that's nice but very small, like 1,000 square feet, that's like east of 95, close to the water, or you could get something very west, so you're like 25 minutes to the water, and have like a nice, 4 bedroom house, that might be renovated in like mid 2000s that, you're going to want to update because you don't like the brown granite anymore.
What about 3 million? Last one I'm asking.
Yeah, 3 million. I mean, depending on the city, you could definitely get a waterfront property. Um, Depending on how big you need it to be, you might have to make some updates. If you're, I would say like 3.5 will get you a nice property on the water that you wouldn't have to make updates for.
All right. So what is of I know you've been there for quite some time. Like what's your favorite part about living in Florida?
I would say my favorite part of living in Florida would be that I don't have to wear a jacket most of the year. Like I can leave my house without thinking about where's my jacket, where's my gloves, where are my earmuffs, do I have my boots? Um, when it's winter here, I hate it. I literally hate it. I'm cold all the time, and I've just acclimated to the weather so much. So it would be really hard for me to move somewhere where it got cold. I would need to be in a place that was warm all the time. So that for me is a big plus. And I would say that's probably my biggest like reason why I live here.
So if somebody were watching this video right now and they were thinking about making the move, but they were on the fence, um, what do you think would help them to kind of just say, okay, I think this is the right decision. It's really time to get out of New York. We need to get into the heat. Like what's the best thing about living there that you think would really like move the needle?
Well, I think it would depend on the lifestyle, just like New York, right? You're going to put people in or suggest different cities based on the lifestyle somebody wants to live. Like I have a client who is debating on, East Coast versus West Coast, and they're two very different speeds. So West Coast is even slower on the West Coast of Florida is even slower than the East Coast of Florida. So, depending on that lifestyle. And then if you're okay with bugs, lizards, understanding that that's also part of our culture, iguanas, right? Like it's like there's like different things that you have to get used to here year round versus maybe in some other states like I don't know, Texas or something. They may have other things. Arizona, they may have other things, right? They have scorpions in Arizona. I don't know. So depending on that lifestyle that you want, there's no mountains here. There are no mountains here. Do you like the beach? Do you prefer the beach? Do you like to golf? Like that's the kind of lifestyle we have here is beaches and golf and some pools, but if you like mountains and hiking, you're not going to get that here unless you go to northern Florida. So depending on how you want to live is where I would suggest you choose in Florida. In Southeast Florida, where I am, people choose to be here because one, it's like a warm New York, right? There are great restaurants here. There are things to do. There's a train to get you from Miami to West Palm Beach. Now it even goes to Orlando. It's just fully developed here. There's a ton to do. And there's a lot more culture and art and music and things like that that come here. So people like to have that and at their fingertips.
Yeah, that makes sense. You had said something about people getting used to iguanas. I have a random winter question for you. Is it true that when it gets really cold out in Florida, iguanas fall out of the trees?
Yeah, they do. It's kind of sad. Like we'll have a couple in our yard when it gets really cold, like in the 40s. Yeah, they freeze. And this past winter, my dog ate one.
Wow.
Like they were literally in the yard. Like we didn't see it, and then the dog comes in with the thing in its mouth, and oh my God, it's gross.
Oh
So
God.
when it's
It
cold,
doesn't
you do
look
have to pay
delicious.
attention. Yeah, it's disgusting. So you have to pay attention and make sure there aren't any if you have dogs in your yard. But I have a question for you. Do
Sure.
you feel like more people are moving based on politics? Because you guys had an election recently, and everybody was, on social media was talking about how everyone in New York is going to move because of this election and yada yada. Not to get political, but
So I think that a lot of people said they were going to move when Mamdani won the election. But a lot of people say a lot of things and then don't do anything. So I think that
Mhm.
the people that were going from based upon my clients, none of them were like moving because of Mandela. There's people that don't like the politics or whatever, but they were going to leave anyway. Like every single one of them already had it in their plan that when they retired, they were going to make the move. And it just happened to be that now is the time. Um, I see it and I remember the Post put out some article and it was some like ridiculous number. It said like a million New Yorkers set to leave after the election. I'm like, there
That
were
was a crazy
less
number.
there were less than 4 million home sales in the entire country last year. So you
Yeah.
mean to tell me that a quarter of home sales in the country will come from New Yorkers leaving because of Mandami, whether you like them or you don't like them? That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I had a post on TikTok go viral where I was like, I think 100,000 people are going to move from New York. And like, I don't know. Like, I don't follow politics in New York that closely, so I had no idea. But I just said the thing, and there were so many New Yorkers in my comments, like screaming at me, telling me I was dumb, and like all this stuff. And I'm like, you guys take life way too seriously because it was just a joke. It was literally, I was being so sarcastic. And yeah, people got very butthurt about it.
Yeah, well, I mean that's TikTok. I think most every
Yeah, yeah,
I've made like a bunch of posts about moving to Florida, and it's always like, "Don't come here, we hate you."
yeah.
So,
Literally.
and yet,
It's yeah, it's because I mean the culture in New York is a lot more aggressive than the culture in Florida. That's what it is. People in Florida are way more passive aggressive. So,
Yeah,
It's that versus the direct like rah, rah, rah.
yeah, we're pretty aggressive here in everything. Like literally everything. Like every
Mhm.
approach to everything. Yeah. But
Yeah.
with the
So
good
we
thing, that's
haven't
who we
seen
are.
the Mondavi effect in the, I would say, the average price point. Like I think maybe the multi-millionaires have seen that. I've heard, some of the agents who deal with, sports and celebrities and, other government officials and things like that, like they've moved or they've seen an uptick, but the average Joe, probably not. Like they're not going to move their whole life because of one
Yeah.
elected official.
And like there's something uh Governor Hochul just put something out that they want to raise the taxes on anybody with a second home over $5 million. And it's a big headline. I'm sure there's somebody that's going to react to it, but a lot of those people, you have a second home, it's $5 million and up, you're probably not that worried about what the tax is going to be. And
Right.
am
I'm
I
sure
right
your
about this?
accountant can hide it somewhere else.
Yeah, like it's all these headlines are just, you look at the sources from where they come and you know that they're just clickbait types of publications. That's why I'm like, you take these things with a grain of salt because everybody's looking for clicks. We're looking for clicks right now. Come on, by the way, click like and subscribe, all right?
Yes, exactly.
It makes me feel validated as a human being. I need this.
Yes, exactly. I agree. That's
But all
funny.
right, I think that's about it. So why don't you tell them where they can find you, the best way to reach out if they've got questions or they want to buy a home with you?
Yeah, I would say the best place to reach out would be on Instagram. It's just my name, Tiana Ponti Morales. And I have a lot of content on there about Florida, about my opinion on Florida, about my opinion on many different topics, and how to, buy in Florida, different properties I've listed, all that fun stuff. And then you can DM me there, or I have like a link in bio that someone can reach out to me. So Instagram, I would say, is the best place.
Cool, and I'll make sure I put that in the caption when I put this together. And I'm Eric Berman. You can find me on Instagram, Eric Berman underscore RE. Again, the links for that will be below. And until the next time, you all stay sexy.
Move to Florida.